we'll stay with 2025 while you hit that, because I don't think we've had you on since then, with 19 early enrollees, 26 total signed, as you mentioned, top 10 class. Did that hit the mark in your estimation?
It was better, Mark. I mean, it hit the mark, and it's still, I think, fifth in the SEC. And it's like a top 8 class there for Florida, depending on what service you look at. So, hey, look, certainly, Mark, when you go and look at where Florida was at one point, and they were ranked in the 50s, and I think they only had like 13 commits at one time, and then we talked about that winning streak, and that was the biggest thing. Florida goes on that winning streak. They were able to sell a lot there, get some late flips in Hilton Drake Stubbs from Miami and Lagonze Hayward from Tennessee. Then I mentioned the wide receivers earlier as well. It was certainly a big bounce back for the recruiting class. It just was dead in the water at one point when it looked like Billy Napier may not be coming back. He gets the vote of confidence. Florida goes on a win streak, and that just seemed to be the perfect combination of being able to flip that class and really put one together early signing day and the national signing day that just happened. But Mark, I think the biggest thing, Florida signed really good wide receivers, as I mentioned, with Vernell Brown, Dallas Wilson, also Nashawn Montgomery as well, who was a show out at one of the All-Star games there in early January. And then the DB class was one of the best Florida's ever signed, with Hilton Drake Stubbs, Lagonze Hayward, Ben Hanks Jr., all, I think, top 70-ish players there for Florida. Mark, they got guys at the top of the class who can be instant impacts in this 2025 season. We already talked about wide receiver. I expect true freshmen to make an impact there. You go look at safety and Lagonze Hayward and Hilton Drake Stubbs. Florida really needs some help at the safety spot. I do think even a freshman could come in spring and maybe prove themselves to get some playing time, because that is a position group that could play better. Jordan Castell didn't have that second-year jump that we expected there in 2024. Did play better at the end of the year than he did at the beginning. But, Mark, what I really look at is the top of the class at wide receiver, at defensive back, and those guys being able to make an immediate impact. And Ben Hanks is what I'm really looking at, because Florida's got a lot of health concerns as far as guys bouncing back from offseason injuries that they probably won't be ready for spring. It gives a true freshman more reps in spring practice, and he's got, the pedigree to back it up. He can make an immediate impact for the Gators.
David Waters, Gators Breakdown, the best in Florida football content, both here on YouTube and across the audio platforms of your choice. Yes, spring practice only a month away. And speaking of which, what's important in spring practice for you? What do you want to see get accomplished? Any particular players that need a big push, a big breakthrough?
I'm going to go receiver, Mark, since we talked about that a lot. Now, Aid Mizell, let's circle on him a bit. It's his third season at Florida. I think he will be in that top 3 rotation at receiver, along with Trey Wilson and J. Michael Sturdivant. But it is time for him to put it together. And we saw glimpses. We saw he had a really good game against Mississippi State last year. Had the big opening bomb touchdown from DJ Lagway to Aid Mizell against Georgia to put Florida up in that game. So I think it's finding more depth at the receiver spot, so they don't maybe have to feel so desperate to go back in the transfer portal and get another receiver there. Just rely on that, Tank Hawkins and TJ Abrams and the freshmen Wilson and Brown. I think Florida just really needs to create some competition with the guys they already have on the roster as far as spring goes. And then on the defensive side, Mark, as I mentioned, they're fighting some injuries with Dijon Johnson and Devin Moore. They had torn labrum, so they had some offseason surgery. Sharif Denson as well, having some offseason surgery to bounce back from. Aaron Gates got hurt at nickel spot against Ole Miss late in the season as well. So Florida's fighting a group of injuries in that defensive backfield. So it's going to open the door for a Cormani McLean, a TJ Foster in their second years at Florida to come around and get more reps. As I mentioned, Ben Hanks is a true freshman getting more reps as well, because Florida has so many injuries that they have to overcome in spring. So it's going to open the door for a lot of participation from some of the younger guys on the defensive side in that defensive backfield.
As we work through this transfer portal with these players, it's going to be impossible for me to continue to track the journeys that these. But you mentioned Cormani McLean.
Yeah.
Now, did he originally commit at Florida, or was that to Miami?
It was when it was a foregone conclusion it was going to be to Florida, and then out of nowhere it was to Miami.
Right.
Yeah,
Then he goes to Colorado, and
right.
here he is back at Florida. Okay, very good. Former 5-star. We'll see if he is able to maybe belie what Deion Sanders had to say about his work habits and get himself straightened out and play some good football. 2026 commits. We got 2 in the class right now. Obviously, that means nothing at this point, but we got Will Griffin out of Tampa as a top 10 quarterback. If you had a chance to really break him down.
Yeah, Mark, and the good thing, kind of your prototypical does have some athleticism, but gonna be a guy who stands in the pocket and tries to beat you with his arm first. And the unique thing about him, Mark, this was the first year where quote unquote underclassmen could take part in the All-Star games. So Will Griffin was there as a junior in high school, competing with the seniors in the Under Armour game, I believe it was. So that was a neat little change this year that he's able to go compete against some of the best seniors out there at the All-Star game. So Will Griffin, certainly a long-time commit for the Gators as well at this quarterback spot. You would think maybe a clean handoff at one point from DJ Lagway to him, but Florida's got some other quarterbacks there, and Tramel Jones in the 2025 class as well, who are going to be competing. So and Will Griffin has even come out recently and said, hey, look, Florida's win streak that we've talked about at the end of 2024 makes it easier for me to go recruit there, Mark. So certainly I think Florida's going to be using that. But yeah, certainly anytime you got a top flight quarterback and one who's been in the class for quite some time, you're going to use that as a linchpin to go get some other recruits there. And certainly there's, some here in the Jacksonville area, some receivers I think, Will Griffin could go and target and try and get into Florida's class. But certainly when you have your quarterback this early, it speaks to an additional kind of recruiter on staff in a way to go out there and help get some offensive playmakers.
So for you and Gator Nation, where does that wish list begin?
Naeem Burrows from Bowles here in Jacksonville, big time wide receiver, top 100 player. He's going to be taking his official visit to Florida, already locked it in. Been on campus a ton as well, of course. You only got an hour and a half drive from Jacksonville to Gainesville, so he's been on campus a lot. And certainly one of the the big targets that Florida's been going after, and tight end as well. Florida likes to use 2 tight ends, so Caden Prothrow is a name there that Florida's going to be going after. What's a big along with Burrows, but with Prothrow as well, going head-to-head with some big-time programs. But Florida likes to use 2 tight ends a good bit. That's a staple in Billy Napier's offense, and they have yet to have that standout, big-time, big-name quarterback in Maris Williams a couple years ago. So kind of still trying to find their way with those tight ends. Amir Jackson, not Amaris Williams. Amir Jackson, there we go. At tight end, but Prothrow certainly one of the top in the country. Russ Callaway heading up that commitment there for the Gators, is tight end coach / offensive coordinator there for the Gators. So as you got Will Griffin at your quarterback, those are the 2 targets I'd be looking at for Florida to make Burrows. I feel a whole lot better about as where it stands right now compared to Prothrow, but Florida's going to be putting in the work, and certainly seeing what Florida can do on the field this season with DJ Lagway might go a long way in that one as well.